Hello everyone. So, the importance of inner child healing as it links to everything in your life. You are your inner child as your inner child lives within you. And you are also every single age that you will ever be because there is only ever this moment right now. So you have to realize that the inner child is still within you as it is you. So you need to have a healed inner child for you to thrive in your life and not just barely survive. Because wherever you go, you are going with your inner child. Well, if your inner child doesn't feel safe, then you're not going to feel safe wherever you go. And if your inner child doesn't feel safe, this links to mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression, BPD, paranoia. Anything that is classed as a mental illness all comes from the inner child not feeling safe within. Because what that actually looks like is you being taken away from the present moment, you not being able to enjoy the moment, the only moment that exists, which is the present, which looks like you being stuck in a past or thinking about a future that doesn't exist. And that is because you don't feel safe in that moment, which means your body doesn't feel safe. So your mind is always going to wander. People need to realize that that is what it looks like when you don't have a healed inner child. That is one of the ways that it shows up to you, is you're always going to be thinking about other things that is taking you away from each moment. If your inner child within you is unhealed, this means that you have now got a subconscious program that is operating with you not feeling worthy, which means it's operating in lack. And this is because anything that you went through as a child that traumatized you has now made you the way that you are unless you change your energy. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If you went through something that took you out of alignment with who you really are and made you feel a certain way, which is fear, and you didn't fully release that experience, now what happens is that lives within the body because that is stored within the body. So every experience now that you go through after that, you are manifesting with the feelings within you. Well, if you're still holding on to things that you've gone through, if you're still holding on to that fear or whatever it may be, that emotion within you is going to manifest now into your external reality. So you are going to keep recreating traumatic experiences for you to keep validating that state that you are being, because you get more of what you are being, and what you are being is what you are doing internally within, so your vibrational frequency. And because every moment is a manifestation and you manifest with those feelings, of course the thought produces the feeling, but it's the feeling that you move around in your life with. So if you have any trapped emotions, they are stored in the body and that will manifest in your external. So you're always going to be left with the feelings that you feel within. And this is why it's so important to heal that inner child, because if it's not healed, you're creating the traumatic experience that first made you feel the ways that you do. And then you're going to be left in that lack limited mindset of feeling unworthy, which I just explained a moment ago, because you're not going to understand why these things keep happening. And also you're going to have cycles happen over and over again in relationships, in family, in friendships, wherever you go. The cycles are going to happen because it's not actually about what's going on externally, it's about what you're doing internally. And if you're still holding on to the things that you've gone through, they don't just disappear, they cannot just go away, they are still within you. And like I've mentioned, they are manifesting in your external for you to keep experiencing those feelings. So this looks like people in your life validating the way that you feel within. All the people in your life, that is what they do. They just validate the way that you feel within. Your subconscious program, which is 95% of your day's waking activity, is where your beliefs are. And this is where you formed your beliefs when you were a child. So when traumatic experiences happened, they've now formed your beliefs on what you believe things to be, what you believe love to be, and all the other things that you believe unless you change your own energy. So that means that during the day, 5% of your brain's activity is conscious, only 5. And what happens is the job of the conscious mind is to only look for evidence to back up what's going on in the subconscious program. And I've just explained that is 95% of your brain's activity during the waking day. And that has everything that you believe to be true. And this was formed when you were a child. This is really important information for you guys to know, because that's all your conscious mind is doing. You may be thinking, you're getting up, you're going to work, you're going to the gym, you're doing whatever. And of course, that's what you're physically doing. But all that's happening is wherever you are going, whatever you are doing, your conscious mind, the 5%, is just looking for the evidence to back up what you believe to be true, to back up what's going on in that subconscious program. So inner child is the basis to everything, and it's crucial if you want to live a life that you are thriving in and where you feel fulfilled. Because if you go through traumatic experiences as a child, you've now formed those beliefs that you aren't good enough, you aren't worthy, you are hard to love, and the list goes on. So now that's in your subconscious programming. That's what you believe to be true. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It could be 20 years later, 50 years later, 70 years later. And if you haven't changed your energy, then you're still operating from that program, as we all are. And the 5% is still looking for the evidence to back up what's going on in that subconscious program. So if you have thoughts that you are unworthy, you're not good enough, you're not lovable, all of that, you're always going to be validated with those thoughts that you have about yourself. It doesn't matter how many relationships you go through, if you move house or job or whatever you do, you're always going to be validated with the feelings that you feel within. And those feelings are created from the thoughts. Well, a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking, and the subconscious program is just based on what you believe to be true. So inner child healing is the basis to everything. And if the inner child is not healed, then you're always going to be thinking of other things rather than being in the moment. You are taken away from the present moment. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what I mean by this. One example is you could have a partner, but every time you're with that partner, say you're just sat down still, you cannot actually rest. You can't actually sit still because that inner child within you is always wanting you to do something, to show that you're worthy. Even if you don't understand that on a conscious level, that is what's happening. So you always feel like you've got to be doing something. You've got to be on the go. You feel, on edge when you sit still, because it doesn't matter how much you've accomplished. If the inner child doesn't feel safe within, you're never going to feel like you've accomplished anything, because you can't enjoy the now. You can't enjoy the moment to appreciate everything that you've actually accomplished. You're always thinking about the next thing. Well, that's great, of course, to think about, the goals and where you want to head. But if you can't appreciate what you already have and what you are creating, then you're going to live a life where you're just never feeling fulfilled or satisfied. It doesn't matter how many cars you have in the garage or how much money you have in the bank. If you can't appreciate what you have now, you're never going to appreciate what you have. No amount of anything is going to change that, because you have to change that within. Your inner child needs to feel safe within, so you can feel safe in each moment and therefore truly appreciate everything that is going on. So another example is, again, you're with your partner. You can't stay still. That's number one. You're having thoughts in your own mind when it's silent, thinking about, are you even good enough? Does that person even like you? Do they like someone else? Are they speaking to someone else when you're not around? These thoughts are going to be tormenting your brain if you have gone through trauma in the past because you don't feel worthy. Anyone who goes through trauma in the past and are still holding on to those emotions within them and they aren't fully released, you're always going to operate in lack. So now you are operating from feeling unworthy, which means it's going to look like you speaking like that in your own imagination, thoughts of lack, because that's how you feel. Again, if the inner child doesn't feel safe, when you go anywhere, even if you go into a shop, you could feel easily overwhelmed. Someone glances over, you instantly assume they're looking at you, judging you. Because if your inner child doesn't feel safe within you, you don't validate you. Because that inner child wants you to be the parent to it, to validate it, to nurture it. But if you're not doing that, then that inner child feels so vulnerable, feels weak, feels unworthy, feels unlovable. And again, it doesn't matter how old you are. So you could be 50, but you still have that inner child within you. And again, if you have unreleased, unhealed trauma, that is within your body. And over time, it can manifest on the external to get your attention into illnesses or whatever. But it's only to get your attention to look within, because there's nothing outside of you. It's all internal, as it's all an inside job.